So let's create categories controller, and just like before, I'll right click controllers, add, and another controller but new class. And I want this to be categories controller. And I wanted a class rather than a controller because that would create a scaffolded controller with some of the methods already in it, and I don't want that. I want to go from scratch here. So to make this a controller, all you have to do is inherit from controller. And in order for us to inherit from controller, we need to bring in the namespace, which is Asp Net Core MVC. So the first thing we need to do is to inject the iCategory repository GUI into the constructor. So let's create a variable for our iCategory repository GUI type, and I'm calling it _category repository. Of course, in order to have access to iCategory repository GUI, I need to bring in the namespace, which is bookgui.services. That's where all our interfaces are. So now let's inject it into a constructor. So inside the argument for the constructor, I'm going to pass iCategory repository GUI interface, and I'll just call it category repository. And then inside the constructor, I'm going to assign the value of it to my variable _category repository. And now we are ready to use it. Let's start with the index action that we will be using for getting all categories. So I'm going to create a public iActionResult. And it doesn't need any arguments. However, I need to call it something, and I'll call it index. And here, all we have to do is get all the categories from the category repository and assign it to a variable. So I'll create a variable called categories, and then make the call to our category repository, the method getCategories. So now we have the list, but let's see if there's anything there. So let's check if it's blank. So we will make the count of the elements for the list, and if it's 0, then we know that there's nothing in it. So if our categories.count, if this one is less or equal to 0, then we have an empty list. And just like we did with the countries, if the list is empty, we will create a viewBag message that we will display on the view, and it can simply say that there was a problem retrieving categories. So let's do a viewBag message and create some kind of error message. And at the end, we return view with the categories list. So if the list is empty, then the error messages will be returned as part of the view. Otherwise, just the list of all categories will be returned. And so this is it for the index action. And next, we can create a view for it.